I've never seen that happen before in an MCU movie. It was really fascinating. They laughed at it several times.
Okay guys, I got home about over an hour ago. I thought I'd sit down and relax, and then I saw these notices popping up about Doctor Strange 2. Reviews are out, some spoilery, some very non-spoilery. I'm going to concentrate on a very non-spoilery reaction review from Grace Randolph, and I think there are some things that she says in this video reaction might be considered a spoiler, so if you don't care about that at all, make sure you turn away from this video and make sure you come back after you've seen the film. Am I going to watch the film? I'm not going to tell you that yet. I'm going to watch Grace's review because it's pretty cool. I will skip a lot of it because I don't want to get a copyright claim or just solely concentrate my video on her thoughts and opinions. But before I do that, let's just go to Empire quickly. They've given it a 4 out of 5 stars. What a big surprise. Empire used to be a great publication for movie reviews. They really simped hard for Christopher Nolan and other notable directors, but I'm not surprised there. Maybe again they're simping for Sam Raimi here, and we'll get on to Sam Raimi in a minute as well. Also, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, or Tomatoes, whichever part you come from in the world, I'm just going to go over some of the negative ones very quickly. Sir Robbie Collin from the Daily Telegraph, the UK, of course, where else? If you enjoy watching a handful of random worthy selected branded characters wisecrack, squabble and mope while pretending to fly around and shoot fireballs at the virtual scenery, here comes another 2 hours of that. Holy shit. Then Peter Martin from DallasFilmNow.com is potentially dazzling, though the reality of watching the movie becomes wearisome. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Brian Orndorff, there's some premium Raiminess to shake up the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU by the way, presenting them with their first horror-tinged story that actually feels frightening at times. Again, Grace Randolph said something contrary to what that's just been said here. So in case you want to know what the overall score for this movie based on 66 reviews is 83%. Now, I could have sworn I saw that a lot higher, but maybe I'm imagining things, but no, I probably am imagining things. We are talking about the Multiverse of Madness, right? So let's just go over to Grace Randolph's video here very quickly, and there's some noticeable things that she said there which made me almost laugh out loud actually, so here we go.
But when you see the final product, a lot of things have been cut that not just myself, but also other scoopers have been reporting to you. And I think basically what's happened is that instead of this being the MCU proper's answer to Sony's very successful No Way Home, it all...
Grace needs a little bit more coffee in the system. She's a bit oohing and ahhing, walking along that tightrope very, very carefully. But what she says is interesting because I've said before in a previous video, they have made numerous cuts to this movie. It was meant to be a 2.5 hour movie. It was meant to be a celebration of everything that Spider-Man No Way Home did right last year. For some reason, they're getting a little bit scared at Marvel as to what is going on with this movie. Now, the real reject, they gave a reaction after they saw the film, and Greg Albert said, well, Wanda was amazing, like she was great, and Elizabeth Olsen, look man, she's a smoking hot redhead, okay, and she's got the figure to boot, so I've got no problem with that, except when I hear that Wanda stole the show. Is she the steam sealer? Now, is she dominating the whole film? Because again, if you look at the poster, yes, while Strange is bigger than her in the picture of this poster, she is center and front of everything. So what does that mean, folks? I have no idea. I've got a few suspicions, but yikes.
Almost seems as if the Marvel brass made the decision to make that be Secret Wars, which is coming in the next few years, and to
I'm just going to say this much. I don't care for Secret Wars. I'd rather go back and read the original source material because the MCU is just that. It's the MCU. It is not, it's dismissed Marvel Comics and it wants to be its own entity. And I think that's going to be detrimental to the brand going forward. But hey, let's just carry on to this bit here actually, because this moment did actually make me think what was going on.
It was still Christmas. I guess that's kind of what I've seen people cheer. I've had experiences that have really lasted and stood with me. And that's one of the reasons people still go to see Marvel movies in a theater, to have these experiences. But what happened here is that in the third act, I couldn't believe it. The audience laughed at the movie instead of with it. I've never seen that happen before in an MCU movie. It was really fascinating. They laughed at it several times.
Wow! I can tell you now, she talks about a monologue that Strange has, and apparently it's delivered so badly that that's the reason why the audience was just laughing. And again, you can see why I don't have any enthusiasm for going to watch a Marvel movie these days. I used to like it all the way up until Endgame. Endgame is a problematic Marvel movie for sure. You know, that's why I say my two favorite superhero films, Dredd with Carl Urban and Blade with Wesley Snipes. That's got a bit of a revival from JoBlo.com. They've done a recent review about it. Blade will always be the best Marvel superhero film they've ever made, even though it had nothing to do with the MCU now. This was done by New Line Films back in 1997 to 98. And that, you know, and forget the fact that it's a black superhero. It was just a Marvel movie that took a grade D character, made it an A-lister. You had somebody like Wesley Snipes who just kicked ass on the screen. It was R-rated. You had a great villain in Stephen Dorff. You had all these fantastic ingredients. That's why when you watch that movie today, that is the template of what a great superhero movie should be about. Wesley Snipes, he wasn't a dominating force in that whole film. Every other character had a lot of screen time. Obviously in the sequels, it was the case of, well, yeah, Wesley Snipes get a bit more dominance. But you know what? Blade Trinity, I'll say this much as well. When you see Jessica Biel in that movie, she looks like she worked out in the gym for several months. Unlike Natalie Portman and her midget-sized arms.
Which, to come this close to finally having the awesome character from the comics come into the MCU, choices made. I believe it was overall Raimi's third act that is really not good. Like, wow, my audience laughed at that. And in fact, every time the audience laughed at the movie, which was a few times again, as I said, and also scratched their head and was like, what? I'm not going to give anything away, but there are some really weird, questionable choices made. I believe it was overall Raimi's influence that caused that. I think it's basically his fault, him and Michael Waldron. Also, because Raimi ultimately had to deliver a PG-13 movie, this movie feels significantly whittled down. In fact, I know that it is, but you can feel it. It's not like, oh, we just know there's other stuff.
You know, I think that comment is very indicative of the times that we're living in today, because if you think of the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies from 2002 and 2004 respectively, they had some scary elements in those. But guys, we're talking about the early noughties, where people wanted a little bit of edginess in some of their favorite superhero movies, these kind of things going out there. But now we're in the carefully curated 2022s and beyond. It's like you can't take an esteemed and respected director like Sam Raimi. I kind of knew this as well. I had a funny feeling that once he accepted his gig and replacing Scott Derrickson, who, and you know, when you watch the original Doctor Strange that he directed Derrickson, I think he did a far better job. And he certainly had all the horror aesthetics there. But Sam Raimi, he's been controlled by Kevin Feige. He's been controlled by the Marvel machine that wants to make sure that what they deliver is going to be an awesome product. From what Grace Randolph has said here is nothing short of It's just really bad, apparently. And it's, oh, man. I might just go and watch this film just to see how bad it is. Apparently, the cameos are underwhelming. The action isn't very good. America Chavez gets a substantial amount of screen time, even though she's been removed mostly for Saudi Arabia and China and other countries that maybe don't settle well with her type of character. From what I got about this review from Grace Randolph, they're really pushing America Chavez really, really hard, pushing that agenda, the identity politics, nothing like the comic book character that people love. Now, I've not read the comic book version, so I cannot pretend to sit here and say, oh yeah, I know this version of America Chavez. Nothing of the sort. And again, Liz Olsen, she's super hot. I like her. I liked her when she was an indie actress before Marvel came in with their big gaping teeth and snapped her up for their failing franchise. And something else that Grace mentioned here, that in the third act of Doctor Strange, it feels very deja vu of the third act for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Merlin Mings. It's exactly that. And I'm like, this doesn't surprise me at all. Kevin Feige looks to cut and paste everything that he's done into his current films going forward. If you look at their previous Marvel films, they were not copy and paste jobs of each other. They tried to be, and mostly succeeded in being different from one another. So do I have any hope this film will do well at the box office? I don't really care. It probably will, but Grace once again said in this review that she reckons this will end up on Disney Plus in 45 days from its release this week, and that's going to be hilarious. And I might watch it then, or I might just sell the high seas for it. But if I'm being told it's got very bad special effects, it undoes everything that the What If series did, which I didn't bother watching because that was bollocks to me, from what I saw the glimpses of. And what was the other thing I was thinking of? Yeah, that WandaVision was meant to be the setup for everything happening in this, and suddenly it's an anticlimactic narrative. So I think what they removed from this final version for the theatrical release is going to hurt it. Maybe they're taking a cue from Sony Pictures, how they dismantle Morbius and the Venom films. So you had a bare husk of what the movie could have been. And that's all I have to say, folks. So if you enjoyed this reaction today to Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness, you know what to do. Get your eye of Ogamoto out and wave it at the screen. Maybe poke it a few times. Give it a like. Give this video a subscribe. Share it where you can. Share it wherever you can. And if I were you, I would check me out on my next video.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly as a woman anchoring the show. Did you say, what did you just say? You believe in the First Amendment and BWBS?
Boobs. Two things that have only never let me down in this entire country's history, the First Amendment and boobs. So those are the only two things I believe in absolutely in the country.